Vince. Everything okay?
Yeah, I think so.
You were looking at the monitor. I didn't know if you had any issues.
No, I don't know what this one's for, but.
Oh, yeah, don't worry about that. We're good.
The sprinklers come on and we all have to. What's that? No, different stuff.
Good morning, and welcome to the June 6, 2024 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. Now, if any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the agenda, there are speaker request forms to the left of the dais. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the secretary. At this time, we'd like to ask that if any member of the audience, including myself, has a cell phone and other electronic devices, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. And if you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so that the meeting is not disrupted. The public hearing on item 1 is hereby open.
Move approval of the minutes.
Okay. We have Karen moving to approve the minutes. Do we have a second? Second. And a second by Mike. The minutes have been approved. And the public, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public hearing on item 2, number 24, VA 005, the South Boulevard addition is now open.
So this item is a variance request to reduce the side yard setback for a deck from 2 feet to 1 foot at 623 St. Patrick Street. So this property is developed with a single-family dwelling with a walkout, and it was built in 1948. So the property is zoned medium-density residential district. Future land use is urban neighborhood. The property is accessed by St. Patrick Street, which is classified as a principal arterial street on the city's major street plan. So this is a survey of the property. The house is set back approximately 5 feet from the east property line. It contains a side entrance, which is accessed by small landings and steps, which encroach onto the neighboring property to the east. So that small landing and steps to that side entrance is located within an encroachment easement. So this is just a closer view of that access to that side entrance. So this is the existing elevation drawing. This shows the concrete steps, the concrete landing, and shows that encroachment easement as well. So this is the proposed site plan. The applicant is proposing to build a 300 square foot deck. He'll be set back about 1 foot, or set back exactly 1 foot off the property line, and provide a new access to that side entrance so they don't have to rely on that easement. So this is just a closer view of the deck. The applicant did note that construction of the deck will begin the process of removing that easement and returning that land back to the property owner. So staff finds this is a special circumstance that justifies approval of the variance. So this is the elevation drawing of the proposed deck. The minimum separation required in the zoning code between a deck and an adjacent dwelling is 10 feet. This deck will be set back 7.5 feet from the sidewall of the dwelling, the neighboring dwelling. So therefore, staff is recommending that this deck and the steps be built out of fire-treated wood or some other non-combustible material to address that reduced separation between the neighboring home. So this is just a picture of that landing and steps looking from the front yard. Just looking at that same area from the backyard. This is where, it's mainly where those concrete steps and where that landing is where we have that encroachment easement. And these are just pictures provided by the applicant of the front of the home, back of the home, and then again, he took pictures of that same area as I showed before. This is looking east on St. Patrick Street and looking west along that same street. So staff is recommending that this variance request be approved, considering that it'll begin the process of removing that encroachment easement The deck doesn't appear to detract from the character of the neighborhood, and fire safety concerns with that reduced separation between the dwelling will be addressed with non-combustible building materials. And with that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Since I don't have any speaker request forms, does anyone on the Planning Commission have any questions, or Zoning Board of Adjustment? Item 2.
Mr. Chair,
I'm going to figure this out, Vicki.
I've got it, thank you. So in this circumstance, because this house was built in the 40s, this is back before we had the setback requirements that we have today. And unfortunately, there is a structural encroachment onto the adjacent property. That in and of itself creates the unique circumstance that sets it aside from some of the other requests that you have had before you. The injury to the neighbor is the encroachment. By granting this variance that removes that structural encroachment, we're actually improving that condition. So based on those two criteria, we are recommending approval with the stipulation that Tanner identified.
Any discussions? If we do, we have a motion to approve by Mike with the stipulation stated by staff. Vicki?
Mr. Chair, if we could just have the motion maker cite the two, in concurrence with the two criteria that were previously identified. Special circumstance due to the age of the structural development, and that removing the encroachment reduces the injury to the neighborhood.
Do you have a second? And second? Oh, by Kelly. Couldn't hear, sorry. Any additional comments from the Planning Commission? All right. Motion passes. Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Those that oppose? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have item 3, which is the number 2 for VA 006, the second floor subdivision.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, Board. Jessica Olson with Community Development. Today, we're going to be talking about a variance for a reduction in the front yard setback of this property at 1900 Fox Road. So this is an application that was brought in by the South Dakota Department of Transportation on behalf of the property owner at 1900 Fox Road, which is the altitude apartments that are currently being built on that property. The property is in the office commercial zone with an employment future land use designation in the future land use plan. It is off of the service road that's on Mount Rushmore Road, so right off of that at Fox Road is the area we're talking about in the kind of the front south corner, so the east southeast corner of the property. So I do want to note the purpose of the request for the variance. There is interchange improvement at Catron and Mount Rushmore Road that's going to be going in the future. Because of that improvement, there is a need to adjust some of the other intersections along Mount Rushmore Road, including the service road and some of the perpendicular roads there as well. So this is one of the intersections that is looking to become a full intersection. They're actually moving the Table Rock Road intersection to Fox Road and making it a full intersection instead of controlled. So there are spacing requirements that are required between the two intersections, one at Mount Rushmore and then at the service road on Fox Road for safety purposes. And the distancing requirements a minimum of 150 feet. They also have some level of pedestrian facilities that are needed along the road that would take up some of that space as well. And so the purpose for the variance is to be able to do that, set the 150 feet from intersection to intersection and include a 6-foot curb and sidewalk as well. So in needing that space and that separation, they're going to start encroaching onto that property at 1900 Fox Road. After acquiring the right-of-way that is needed for the project, the setback for the building that is already built, it's not occupied yet, but it has been built, is reducing the front setback from 25 feet to that 14.68 feet on the front setback. So that is what the request of the variance is, the purpose. And so there is a special circumstance here that for the purpose of, the greater community safety, connectivity, having transportation flows, there's a bigger picture here with the Catron and Mount Rushmore Road interchange development, that it kind of exceeds the need. And it's also kind of being imposed on the property owner as well, if this would go through. So there's a large benefit to the community by going forward with the road projects that are proposed, as they are proposed with the safety features in the plan, as well as there's not necessarily a detriment to the property owner here. They still maintain a reasonable setback. This is looking at where the setback reduction is. So this intersection would move west, so we're looking kind of northwest here. So it would move more toward the west side of the property. This is looking north. So again, moving more toward where the power lines are. They'll reconstruct that road and add those safety and pedestrian features as well. And so this intersection would become, again, a full intersection moved from Table Rock. This one is looking southwest. And you can tell from this, there's room there to encroach a little bit more in. So it would be about a little more than 10 feet more than the setback is today. And then imagine to the pedestrian features that would be added to the road in addition to the improvement on the roads. And this is looking east toward Mount Rushmore Road. So in conclusion, this is a unique situation that benefits the greater community. There are special circumstances here with the larger road construction impacts that are happening, and any impacts could be mitigated in this regard. So staff recommends approval of the variance to reduce the front setback from 25 feet to 14.68 feet. I'll stand for questions.
And the chair, let me recognize as Haven. Let's see.
This is kind of an interesting situation. It indicates the variance has been requested by the South Dakota DOT, the Department of Transportation. So interestingly, I assume it doesn't quite indicate whether they are actually the applicant here. The question, I suppose, is if this was not approved, how apparently that would affect construction of some improvements by the DOT.
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
they are the applicant. They are not the property owner. The property owner signed the application. We've reviewed hundreds of these over the years since I've come to work here, either from the city or from DOT. When we're looking at a street improvement project and we're adjacent to existing development and we need some of that adjacent property in order to make that improvement, and I think Jessica did a good job speaking to the improvements not only for vehicular traffic but also pedestrian traffic, then it lays upon the Zoning Board of Adjustment to acknowledge that there is a better benefit to the community to have that street improvement and not penalize the property owner by denying the variance. If this isn't approved, there could be condemnation actions taken and the right-of-way would go away anyway. But at this time, everyone's working together. Certainly the improvements at this interchange of Mount Rushmore Road and Catron Boulevard has been something the state has been working on literally for years. And this has been a great neighborhood commitment where everyone's coming together, working together to make sure that these changes are being allowed, which will greatly improve traffic flow and safety in this corridor.
The chair recognizes Mike Quasney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Moving that road that much closer to the apartment, I guess, is there a need for some kind of fencing in the event that there might be children that kick the ball and it's going out to the street and they're going to run into that busy area? Because I'm assuming that'll be quite busy with the number of apartments that are going in there. And that being that close, I guess that would be a concern for the safety part of it.
Mr. Chair?
Vicki?
At this time, that is a front yard. If this were a rear yard or a side yard, their open space area for outdoor play for children is identified on the back side of this. Many of you remember when they first came in with this plan development for this project and the neighborhood input, and it actually got appealed to city council and so on and so forth. And part of it was they needed to show the neighborhood that they did have preservation of that open space and that it would be a safe place. I think the fact that this is a service road and not the actual Mount Rushmore Road full movement also eliminates the need to require a fence in a front yard at this location.
Maybe would it enhance some kind of an obstruction so that I know my grandchildren, they come out the front door, back door, it doesn't matter. They're on a full run. And some kind of an obstruction with this that close, I think for safety, it just seems like they would have something that would slow them down at some point.
Mr. Chair, if I might. Mike, I think you make a good point, and we can certainly reach out to the property owners. I think maybe some landscaping along that area might be a better solution than trying to stand up a fence in the front yard. But certainly that's something we can have a discussion about.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further discussions? I look for a motion. I'm sorry. We have a motion from Brooke to approve with stipulations. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, if the motion maker would also add, based on the special circumstance created by the need for the right-of-way.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second from Mike. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? And the motion passes. Are there any other issues for staff for the Zoning Board of Adjustment? There being no further business, we have a motion to close the meeting, and we have a second from Brooke. And all those in favor? Aye. And the Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting has been closed. We now commence with the City of Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for June 6, 2024. Again, if any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda, there are speaker request forms on the table along the left wall. Please fill out the request with the agenda number item you wish to speak to and hand it to the staff seated to the left of the dais. Cell phones, please continue to keep your cell phone or other electronic devices off or in a silent mode. And again, if you need to take a call, please step out into the hallway so that the meeting is not disrupted. Items 1 through 4 have been placed on the consent calendar and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with the staff's recommendations by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by a planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the city council, and the city council will make the final decision. Are there any items 1 through 4 that the staff would like to remove from the consent calendar for a special or separate consideration?
No, thank you.
Are there any items 1 through 4 that the planning commission would like to remove from the consent calendar for separate consideration? Are there any items 1 through 4 that any audience member would like to remove from the consent calendar for separate consideration? Okay, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar's items 1 through 4 in accordance with the staff recommendations. We have a motion to approve from Mike, and we have a second from Mike. So all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so. Trying to get my papers here. All right. The public hearing on item number 240R010 is hereby open.
Chair, Commission, thank you. Again, Jessica Olson with Community Development. So this is an application for a conditional use permit to permit on sale in conjunction with a salon or essentially a barber shop. This is an existing business that's at 623 St. Joseph Street. Right now, they've actually relocated to 524 7th Street as of June 1st. It did go by. They're set up in there. So it's B Cut Sharp Co. They actually already had this same business model at the St. Joseph location. They were using a conditional use permit with an on sale for a salon that had been approved previously, came in with the same operations plan, and were able to operate at that site. So they're just moving a little bit down the street. Oh, my notes. So they are proposing to sell beer and wine to customers. Let me go through this first. So they're in the Central Business District, our zoning district that is most common for these type of establishments. It is in the downtown future land use plan, kind of cited by two arterials with just a local street going across on 7th. This is what they submitted with the application, kind of showing where they're located. Sorry, this one's a little hard to see because we have to scan in stuff, but the bar facility is actually in the front of the business, and then there are stations and everything separate on the backside and the north side of the building as well. And so they are proposing to sell beer and wine to customers while they wait. So they have this area where they can sit and do so. The plan is to operate at most between 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and that would be the hair cutting hours. And so they are just assuming that they would have the on sale open whenever at that time. I don't know that we're going to come in at 9 a.m., but that would be Monday through Saturday. Right now, they operate kind of in a pared down hours, but they would assume that would be their full hours. So that was what was submitted with the operations plan. And again, noting it is in a separate section than where the hair cutting area is. And so this is looking to kind of the southeast on 7th Street at the street front where they're located, northeast. So you can tell this area is completely commercial. There's shops and restaurants and other businesses around, banks, other things like that, retail. This is looking southwest and northwest. So it is in an area of downtown commercial development. Other businesses like this are in the area. They actually had this business approved in another location not too far from here as well. So staff is recommending approval with the stipulations noted at the end of the report. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Mike Quasi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's nothing really that's changed. They're just moving. There would be no reason to believe that there's anything that would affect this.
Correct. And I will note actually the hours that were approved they're asking for reduced even than what was approved with the previous conditional use permit at the other location.
Okay, well, I would make a motion to approve with the 3 stipulations that are noted at the end of the report at this time.
We have a motion from Mike Quasny and a seconded by Karen. Is there anyone in the audience that has any comments? Nope. Seeing no further comments. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. That was it. Okay. Does the staff have anything to discuss? Or?
Just one thing. We want to thank the 7 of you for showing up today, and Councilman Roseland, you as well. With summer, it seems like it's harder for us to get a full house of people in attendance. We do appreciate it. If you know that you're going to be gone for some periods of time, if you just let us know so that we ensure that we've got quorum with each of these meetings, that would be great. Thank you.
Any other, Chair recognizes Haven.
On the Arrowhead subdivision request today, I thought about pulling it just for separate consideration, but interestingly, I just had some questions on it. I guess they had apparently a proposed subdivision plan for the entire acreage that they own surrounding the small piece of property that was included in the application today. And I would assume that proposed subdivision that was included in the materials here is just a proposed subdivision. It could change. That really is not tied to what we approved today, the way I assume it.
Mr. Chair? So
Vicki?
it's always dangerous when we talk about an item after we've approved it in case someone in the audience left and they're not hearing the discussion. But this is such a basic question, Haven, I don't think we have an issue with it. You are correct. We're approving a preliminary subdivision plan for a portion of it. It's required that they submit a master plan for the balance of it. Approval of the preliminary subdivision plan does not indicate approval of the master plan. It could change as it moves forward.
I have one item. If if you could just, I was trying to understand this because when I do get the email that says that the Zoning Board of Adjustment, here's the agenda items, I'm used to seeing one name, and then of course the name changes because somebody else is sending the email. So I'm often, I sometimes scroll past it because I expect Andy's name and I don't see it, and I'll just move on. So I don't know if I can find out who's going to be sending that, that might help me a little bit.
So we have two wonderful support staff in our current planning division. All of you see Andrea, you know her well. But she's got a colleague that sits next to her, Kristen, and we do have to let Andrea take vacation from time to time. We don't like to, but when she's gone, then Kristen will send it out. And you'll see that more often, but it's typically between those two.
Okay, great, wonderful, thank you. Are there any other items to discuss? Okay, there being no further business, Mike Gallagher made a motion to adjourn, and we had a second from Brooke. And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And we are adjourned.